Alright guys, so what we're going to do is go over how to draw the eye front view. First thing that we kind of do, again, we start getting that circle going without putting your pencil on the paper. Then slowly start to put your pencil down so you can get that circle that you want. Once you got that circle, then going through and you're going to go ahead and do a smaller circle on the inside, right? So you got the sclera, you got the iris, and then now I've got the pupil added in. Next, I'm going to decide how high up I want the top eyelid to be, put that in, and then I'm going to put the inside and the outside of the eye where I want those to be placed. Okay, and again, usually in between the sclera and the iris somewhere. Then I'm just going to kind of start getting those rough angles. Okay, and again, make sure that you are paying attention to the angles that you're drawing. Adjust them as you need to. What shapes are they creating? So we got the outside of the eye, we got the inside with the tear duct, we've got the iris. I'm going to kind of make that a little bit smaller so we see a little more underneath the eye. And then we got the pupil in here. And then after you get that, you got those basic spots, then you come through, you add that shelf underneath the eye, the bottom eyelid. We've got the fold up on top, and again, everybody's going to be different with this one. You got to look at a reference. Okay. From there, we just start adding our shading in, right? So I'm just going to lay down a light value over the entire eye. And you can do that above the eye as well and below. And as always, I'm going super fast, so it's pretty sloppy right now. You guys are going to make sure you have a nice smooth layer of value down. Not super sketchy like what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to come back through. I'm going to add another layer of value on the iris, darkening it up a little bit. Alright, so that way it stands out aside from the sclera, so those two don't blend in together. I'm going to go through in the corners of the sclera. I'm going to darken up a little bit and fade those out. Work on that nice smooth fading from light to dark, that gradation. Okay, and remember, we're dealing with basically a sphere, so that's why it's getting darker as it goes into those corners. Underneath the upper eyelid, I'm going to go ahead and do some shading up top there as well. There's a shadow that's created by the upper eyelid. Again, fade that out. Where it actually hits the eyeball, be a little bit darker, so I can darken that up a little bit, and again kind of fade that out a little bit if I can. I'm going to go through along the edge of the iris. I'm actually going to darken up that outside edge a little bit. It's going to do a couple things. One, it's going to give it that more three-dimensional feel to it. The other thing is it helps me get rid of some of those initial lines that I drew, so it doesn't look like we got Sharpie on the face. So I darken that up, fade that into the rest of the eye. Okay, now I'm going to go through and I'm going to start working on getting that pupil a little bit darker. Now with the highlight there, remember the highlight is going to be a reflection of whatever you are looking at or whatever your light source is. So I kind of erase a spot over here. I'm going to go through and kind of shade it a little bit. So it may be reflecting the mirror that you may be looking in. Could be reflecting a monitor or something like that. Mine right now is most likely reflecting the paper because I got a light source directly on the paper, as well as most likely reflecting my sliding glass window. I like to also put a little bit of a darker area just right outside the pupil on the iris, again helping kind of sell the fact that it's more of a three-dimensional form. Have a little bit of a highlight in the tear duct area because again it's got moisture in there, so that's going to be reflecting the light. I like to go along the bottom here too, right on the front part of the shelf where the bottom eyelid touches the eye, and I'll put a couple little dark spots I'll leave some other spots open so it kind of helps sell the idea of there being a reflection there. And I'm going to shade up on top over here, right? That fold. Again, we want to shade it, smooth that out, fade it out. It's going to be a little bit darker on the sides because the center part here actually sticks out a little bit more towards the viewer or away from the person you're drawing. So it's going to be a little bit darker on the sides. We want to fade that out so it doesn't look like there's a Sharpie mark on your face. And there's also most likely going to be a little bit of a shadow underneath your eyebrow because, again, your eyebrow is on that eyebrow ridge, which kind of brings it out and casts a shadow underneath. Now, some of you guys are going to want to put those lines through there again. Subtle, not very many of them, just a few. They don't go all the way. Some go from the edge in. And again, that's just a way to help sell a little bit of the texture of that muscle that the iris is. Again, work with light layers, build those up. Try to get stuff to fade nice and smooth with each other. Always start light. You can always make it darker. It's difficult to bring it back once you've gone too dark, though. Eyelashes. Again, from the bottom, there's fewer of them. They curve out and away. Once they get towards the center, they're a little more straight out, and then they'll start to kind of curve the other way. Again, fewer of them, not very long. They come from the edge of the shelf. Up on top, they're coming from underneath, from the edge of the eyelid, scooping down and away. Once they get towards the top here, they're kind of almost straight up and down, and they start to kind of curve the other way. Towards the inside of the eye, you're going to have fewer of the eyelashes. And again, the eyelashes are one of those spots where it's really easy for students to go kind of crazy and get a little carried away and end up ruining a really nice drawing of their eye. So again, subtle. Error on too few eyelashes, not too many. Then up here you're going to have that eyebrow shape. Again, shade that in, add the hair. On your projects, it's going to be a little bit more difficult because you don't want to draw that whole sclera on the outside. On your project, you probably got those two dots, and that's the outside and inside of your eye. So from there, what you can do is go ahead and draw that circle for the iris. Then you can draw your pupil, set the top of the eye. That's where I want it to be going through, and then the steps are pretty similar from there on. Okay, again, really pay attention to the shape of the eye that you are drawing. Okay, if it's got strong angles or it's got a soft curve, maybe it curves up a little bit in here, whatever it wants to do. Okay, you're paying attention to those little details. How much of your pupil and iris do you actually see? Okay, does your tear duct drop down or is it straight across? What are the angles that you're actually going to deal with? All right, so once you've got that all figured out for your own eye, then start doing the shading just as we did before.